Welcome to another episode of To the Sky. With me is I have one of my good friends named Renz. Say hi, Renz.
Hey everyone.
Can you introduce yourself and explain to us who you are?
Hi, so I'm Renz. France and I have been family friends for so long,
So long.
really, really long. And I'm a mechanical engineer now in Australia,
Hmm.
in Brisbane. So not in Auckland anymore. And
So
yeah,
yeah, congratulations for being the first international member,
that's
international
all
guest
right.
for the show. So now we're worldwide, which I'm quite happy about.
That's good.
Um, So yeah, I mean, with all things considered, is everything okay? Everything is you holding up well there?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think definitely Australia and New Zealand, relative to the rest of the world, somewhat pretty well off.
Yeah.
So that's definitely the bright side of things when you look at the bigger picture. But if you were to, guess, contain it into just Australia, I know that there's like a lot of people struggling, and especially with like work and I guess mentally or well-being wise for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, number one, being isolated for far too long, right? Or
You guys were
just
straight like 4 weeks, was it
oh yeah,
initially?
oh yeah. I mean, you know, fortunately, I'm living with family here, so I was
Mm.
able to stay sane by being able to have conversations with people. The number one question that we always love to ask on this show, Renz, are you always learning?
Of course, we're always learning. Student of life is that how it goes? Student of life. I feel like life life kind of just stops if you stop learning. Kind of gets a bit dull.
Mm,
I
mm.
think learning also kind of is a way for you to realize your potential. Because I feel like when you, I guess I remember when I was younger, I used to not like things because I kind of get like bored easily, even now. And
Yeah.
so a lot of the times I would kind of like get prematurely bored without realizing it was just because I wasn't really that good at what it was I was trying to do. And I think a lot of the times, not always, but a lot of the times when you do end up learning something and get a little bit better at it, you do tend to enjoy it more. And I think it's a good way to live life if you can always, you know, make the best out of every opportunity you have.
That's a great answer. Because I thought all engineers, doctors, and lawyers and accountants know all the answer to life when they graduate. So, in regard to the earlier question about always learning, can you tell us one thing that you learned recently? What's something that you've
Um,
learned?
I guess it kind of stems from a somewhat unfortunate thing. So, like,
Hmm.
I guess because I've been recently, well, recently as in like a year now, just like trying to get into running,
Oh,
because it's obviously a swimmer, but that was mainly because I didn't like running. But now that I guess realizing that running is a little bit more accessible than swimming, especially now with like the whole work lifestyle. Um, so I've been trying to recently run a half marathon in under two
wow.
hours, my goal. But I guess in that build up to it, I kind of hurt what's called my IT band. I don't actually know the full name for it.
Is it something
But
related to your
like,
niece?
yes, actually,
Hmm.
it's the connective tissue on the outside of your like thigh or your quad, sorry.
Hmm.
And so yeah, essentially every time I run, it will keep hurting. And so what I
Uh,
learned today was I guess some strengthening exercises for that. Because of now, especially now in my office job, where you're kind of just sitting, and especially at work from home, where it's a lot easier just to stay sitting.
yeah, because like you're super active when you're on that chair, right?
Definitely, exactly. And so I've been learning to learn today how to like I guess strengthen that muscle. So I guess I'm just learning how to rehab it, and at least in the future now, if I were to get it again, maybe on the other leg,
No, no. Well, I
touch wood,
mean, that's quite unfortunate. I'm really sorry to hear that, but I guess it is still
maybe
learning.
another opportunity to learn, right? Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known how to, I guess, somewhat treat it if I didn't experience it myself.
Well, I imagine you'll be fine. You're like one of the most athletic people I know in my life, so you'll be fine. Um. Okay. Are you working on any projects? at the moment that you can talk about and want to share with us?
At the moment, I'm working on some projects regarding fire hydrant compliance or like
Wow.
fire. So it's kind of like so when the fire brigade comes, they obviously connect to the truck and the hydrants that you see on the streets, etc. And so what we've been trying to do is with buildings being redone or shaped for purpose and I guess changing their layout, etc. We got to maintain the coverage for such hydrants. So we've been doing that and like maintaining compliance and stuff like that. And also upcoming, I guess, what like I mentioned earlier, with I guess COVID kind of bringing out other opportunities for me to work with other teams in our company. I've been working a lot with our dams team.
What is
Uh,
that? Sorry, I'm not
dam,
kind of.
so
Oh,
that's like big reservoirs or
oh,
like
water dams. Sorry, I thought you said something else. Yeah, water dams. Okay.
and so we'll be working on a project for, I believe it's like a fishway, which I didn't realize actually had so much engineering in it because I just thought fishways were just, as you would imagine, just one a way for a fish to get from one end to the
Yeah,
other, right? But I didn't realize that there was so much engineering in that. So I guess today I was learning how to use the software just to, I guess, prep myself for that.
uh-huh. Oh,
Yeah.
can you explain like what software you're using? What is it, like an
Um,
AutoCAD? I'm not quite familiar
it's
with
actually called WaterCAD. Uh,
WaterCAD.
Yeah, so it's for pipe distribution. It's a bit
Wow,
of like hydrology kind of thing. Still getting my head around it. Don't really know what I was doing. Just
that's
watching
fair.
tutorials, but again, I guess that's another thing that learning. I guess continuously.
I I guess that's the silver lining with the current events, right? Like you mentioned that you said you initially were focused on the construction side of things, right? And
Mm,
now you are being diverted to other projects within the company. And
mm,
I guess allowing you to understand new systems and
sure,
new infrastructure even further. So
I agree.
I think that's still nice, like you said, it's still better than being left out with, unfortunately with a lot of people out at the moment.
Mm.
Um, okay, can you talk about a project that you completed that you're quite proud of, like one time at uni or high school or recently? Nothing specific.
It's a good project that I could think about. I guess my high school, not high school thesis, my university thesis
Wow.
was that
Uh,
was a good one because it I guess kind of in engineering because of my work experience. In my head, I'd always wanted to do what I'm doing now, which is working with buildings.
Congratulations. That's probably one of the best part of life.
Yeah, which I guess is like somewhat diverted in a sense from your traditional like
That's
mechanical,
okay.
where you were kind of making a product, like actually making a product. Because I guess contrary to my degree, I'm not exactly the most hands-on kind of DIY person there is. And so that's why I guess that project was kind of intriguing to me because what it was a do you know the company Scope? A New Zealand company.
Not off the top of my head.
They make those those fridges when you go to restaurants.
Sorry, the what? Sorry.
Fridges when they
Fridges.
go to
Okay. Yep.
yeah when you go to restaurants. You know how they've all just got them in that glass windowed fridge.
Yep.
So they make those kinds
Wow.
of equipment, as well as like when you go to Subway, those food prep cabinets or like
Mm.
pizza places where they're just putting the fresh ingredients on the pizza base or the sandwich. So on those food prep cabinets, we were tasked to design a thermal energy storage, which essentially was just like a big ice box, really. What it was essentially like we would use this ice box to essentially store some energy to, I guess, regulate the temperature inside the food prep cabinet overnight or even during use, such that the actual amount of energy needed to, I guess, maintain or just use that food prep cabinet was lower. And I guess because we were sponsored by Scope, and we could use their facilities and their um, temperature readings and all their equipment and manufacturing and all that. It was a pretty good experience because I never thought I would actually get to eventually experience all that kind of, I guess, manufacturing side of stuff. And then being able to just make it all come together, write the report, that kind of whole process from inception right up until we eventually scrapped it in the scrapyard, the final thing. So that was definitely that was kind of my first taste of project going from like right down to the beginning to right at the end.
That is a very cool story. I mean, I do love the idea of being able to start something and seeing it to its
I
conclusion.
think that was definitely cool.
Yeah. You know, I I am quite, I guess, fond as well of work experience. You being able to interact with people in the industry, right? And they know what you're all about, and you get to practice, I guess, pretty much what you've been studying all those years.
For
And
sure.
I think that it's a very cool experience. I mean, I am really glad for you. Did you work on this by yourself, or were you part of a team?
No, so we were part of a team, and I guess I remember my very first lecture at uni. Um, they were talking about how when you graduate uni, in the end, your job is literally going to involve maybe 20% to 40% technical. And then the rest of it would be like, leadership, project management, teamwork, all that kind of, what's the term? Is it soft skills? Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
soft skills, C
yeah,
skills.
soft skills. Because I guess in this information age, all that technical stuff that we learn, honestly, you can just look it up. The reality is, so being able to just know how to use it and how to be resourceful, pick people's brains, learning how to work in a team, all that kind of stuff was, I guess, really evident now that I'm working. But that project at uni was a good kind of start to practice those kinds of skills.
No, I 100% agree, especially when it comes to soft skills, C skills, because
Mm.
I don't know if you knew university students are not all the best at speaking.
Oh,
They're
for
not.
sure. Especially I guess in engineering, where we tend to kind of be a bit more, I guess, reserved.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, I imagine it's the same for a lot of, let's say like comp sci degree or sorry, science degrees, right? I imagine
communication kind of thing.
I imagine the communication students have a leg up in that aspect.
For sure, for sure.
But I I I appreciate that story. I really enjoy that journey that you undertook, and I guess you said that this was a company from New Zealand, so you were oh yeah, because you studied here, right? You did not study in Australia, is that
No,
correct?
I studied in Christchurch. I remember that was when I last saw you.
Right. Yeah, yeah,
Auckland.
yeah. So that's it. So you had the opportunity to team up with a New Zealand company here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's that's really cool. Was that all done on within the what do you call it? Within the degree, right? Like,
Yes, so our final year, I guess a lot of our contact hours kind of just dropped. Like in third year, I'm pretty sure our contact hours being like total
mm,
lectures, tutorials, seminars, and all that labs per week, right? And I guess on a really busy week in third year, it was maybe around like 32, 36 hours, and then in fourth year, to my surprise, it was like 12 hours of classes and tutorials and stuff. But then it felt busier in a sense.
yeah.
All that free time now was just kind of like straight to your final year project. Like anytime you could arrange a meeting with your team, you would just do it and just work on it like continuous, because we would also have deadlines,
Of course.
like, or milestones that we needed to keep up with.
This project that you were talking about with Scope, was this your final year project or a
Yes.
final?
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I did want to ask, as somebody who graduated recently, did you or do you feel that you've learned so much more, let's say, within the 6 months of your working life compared to, let's say, like most of your time at university? Do you think that's true?
I would say I definitely learned a lot more, but of different things.
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah.
Because obviously now when I'm working, I'm not learning calculus again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like I guess like I said before, that's something that you can always just look up in a sense, right? So I think for me, the biggest thing I definitely struggle with, even now, is the process of, I guess, talking to like liaising with councils, liaising with other disciplines of engineering,
Department. Yeah.
like what goes first, what like you. And I guess in the end, like my boss puts it this way, where it's like you don't know what you don't know, right? Like
Yes.
in a lot of cases, you like they tell you to ask questions, but if you don't even know what you're asking, like or what to ask. And so I think if I look back at my development as a graduate, it's been like me kind of realizing what I need to ask. Because in the end, even though um, I'll eventually know how to answer those things I want to be asking, I guess at the moment, because it's still pretty early on, I'm just learning how to realize those things that I do need
Yeah.
to ask about. And so it's good though, because you kind of come into as a graduate engineer pretty much knowing nothing. That because it's such a low base point, you can really see that progression. It's kind of rewarding.
It's it's hard for me to accept even with the engineering degree. It's a low base point. It sounds
It
pretty
really
high
is.
to me.
Yeah, it really is like that.
Mm.
Mm,
Um, I can say similar to my experiences. So I entered like a soft dev role, and one of the hardest part is just like you said, not knowing what you don't know.
mm,
I still like even like 2 years in now, constantly, I still find myself looking back at my old code, just kind of looking at some of my previous project and questioning myself every single time. Why did I do it this way? This is the
mm,
most inefficient way to do something, and it's because I just didn't know at the time, and that's all I knew. And slowly you gain the skills, to understand what you did wrong. And I feel like half the time I feel like I should refactor my code just so I don't have to look at it any longer.
yeah,
But
for
I guess
sure.
that's growing, right? Like, yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
what growing
exactly.
is.
And the fact that you can critique yourself now, in a sense, you've kind of grown from where you were once. Or
I agree. I think that's such an underrated skill as being to really objectively critique your work. I know it's hard. I still sometimes feel like there's not. I'm flawless. So sometimes I feel like I know everything, but to be able to accept that there is always something to be done or improved upon
sure.
is a real strength.
Mm.
Um, so Renz, do you have any interesting side projects you're working on at the moment? Are you working on building a yacht or have you gone sailing?
No, nothing like that. A lot of my side projects, I guess, like we talked about recently, I've been trying to get into photography a bit more.
Oh yeah,
Nothing, just I just enjoy something a bit more creative because in engineering, it can be very logical and
yeah,
kind of just, especially in consulting where it's kind of like deadlines, just do it as quick as possible, efficiently.
it,
And so I think allow myself to kind of just like take my time and just be creative. I think that's a
that's
good
awesome.
outlet for that. And then I guess the other thing being running, like
I
I mentioned. So those are the two that I guess I focus on recently.
I uh I really like that you have this second passion or second, like you said, outlet for creativity, because
Mm-hmm.
I think it's healthy, and we'll have it up on the video with your with I think you said you had an Instagram, right? We'll have it up, and
Oh, cool.
I really remember when I saw it a while back. It was quite interesting, and it was quite lovely photos. And yeah, like me as well. I really want to get into
Yeah,
photography as well.
exactly.
It's
It's
I've been
cool. I really enjoy it.
I've been spending some time just like reading about what was it about the ISO, the shutter speed,
Yeah, shutter
and
speed and the
there's a third one, aperture.
aperture.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
exposure triangle. Yeah.
and how do those work together and stuff like that. I don't have a
Mm-hmm.
camera yet, but it's a lot of fun. You know how much magic you can make out of like
Oh, for
those
sure.
three values,
Mm.
and and especially when it comes to the lenses. Like the war, is it the 50 millimeter gang or is it the 75
Yeah,
millimeter gang?
35.
The 35 as well.
I
Yep.
personally like I like the longer focal lengths. Like I really like the compression that you get from the longer focal lengths.
Yeah.
It's a bit awkward because you have to stand so far back. But
Yeah.
being someone who doesn't really like confrontation anyway, it's quite nice just being so far back and just I guess sniping. I
Yeah.
don't know.
It's a lot of fun. Even like I haven't even actually tried any of it, but just reading into it is like the like you said, like the math and just how it comes together. I'm quite a big fan of.
It's so harmonious in the end. Yeah.
Mm. So, as someone who did engineering and doing what you're doing now, what would be your advice to other people aspiring to be like you, aspiring to be an engineer and doing what you're doing? What would you tell them?
Um, I reckon. I mean, it's something that I struggle with, but it's mainly
Mm.
because of my personality, I think. But having those soft skills of, public speaking, especially, that's big, like, yikes for me. Like, public speaking has just never been my forte. And so I think being able to communicate, I think that's a big thing. Because I feel like at work, even if I don't know anything, I can always ask someone who does know that thing.
Yeah.
And so learning, but if you don't know how to, like, I guess, seek information or retrieve information, whether it be from the internet or from senior or even from your own work, being able to ask the right questions and um, being able to, because especially in consulting, I guess not really for me, but for a lot of my seniors, it's kind of like, rapport and clientele, things like that, and making sure because in the end, clients are people, right? Like, yes, they're the company or whatever, but they're people in the end, right? You're talking to a person. And so I think for me, from what I've seen, definitely having good communication skills, people skills, it's a big plus. Something definitely I had to learn, um, but it was a good thing to learn in the end.
I think that is a very, very solid advice. But first of all, I would like to be thankful and be grateful for you coming on. Like you said, you're not super comfortable with this, but I'm really glad that you decided to
Oh,
come
no,
on.
I feel like I'm definitely a lot more comfortable with people like that I
Mm.
know. Obviously, we've been friends for
Yeah.
years upon years. So yeah.
I mean, still, nonetheless, I'm quite grateful, and I think like I said, it is very solid advice. Being able to talk to people or being able to interact with people, let's say across different let's say faculty in the office, right? So you have your ultra technical side of things, and then you have like your accountants and your marketing, who being not as technical as you might not
Mm,
get the information across, right? And I think that's very important in making like a such a cohesive company.
environment. Yeah, yeah.
Yep, environment. And one thing that I kind of dreaming about the future is the word consulting to me, like you mentioned, and some of your seniors do. To me personally, sounds like such a cool and magical word. Um,
Mm,
I guess I guess maybe it's just due to me. I really enjoy talking. That's why as part of the reason I decided this series is I want to meet meet as
it's a
much
good
cool people
initiative
as
as well.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, to meet as much cool people as possible, and as well as the people I'm interacting with to hopefully help them and hone their speaking ability and be helpful to me. Because I can tell you, man, the first episode was it was rough. Just listening back into me, I still feel like I
Yeah.
stutter a lot. I still feel like I am pausing too long, I
Oh, I'm gonna
guess.
feel like I'll feel the same. Like I'll probably watch this back again, and then
Yeah,
I'll listen to like how I recalled the things that you asked me, and I feel
yeah.
like it'll just be all over the place. But
And
it sounded good in my head, but when it comes out, it's always
100% right. But I think one thing that I'm quite happy that I did from the very beginning is no matter what happened, I will post the episode because I feel like
it's
you
very
can
raw. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like you can second guess yourself to death. That's why I've appreciated this project is that I guess I'm interacting with other people, and I guess there's no second take really, right? And if you're happy with that setup, and I'm happy with that, and I think we're good to go from there. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I mean, like you said, speaking, and that's why I really want to get this message out, get this videos out there, and maybe whoever wants to practice, before they get to that real
Yeah,
interview as well.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a good
Real
way to.
interview is terrifying. Oh
Yeah.
man.
Oh, yeah. It is. It really is.
Uh,
Even though all you're doing is talking about yourself, it's so scary.
and
You
it's
literally know the answer to every question. If it's not a if it's a non-technical interview, you think about the fact that you actually know the answer to every question, but you still don't know. Like when
yeah.
you're sitting there, it feels like you don't know the answer to anything.
Yeah, no, I mean it's very terrifying, but everybody has to do it, and congratulations to you for getting on top of it, and I think that's very, very
Oh
solid
yeah, yeah.
advice.
I'm very grateful.
Hmm. Um. Okay. I guess I'll ask this anyway. I guess what is your current situation? Are you currently happy? We can cut this out if yeah, if you don't want to answer this, but
Mm.
uh, I guess what do you want to say to the people listening on LinkedIn? Do you wanna do you want to collaborate with people? Do you want to um initially I had this question for people who didn't have jobs. A lot of my friends who were still I guess struggling to find roles in their career. The question is like would you want to go to internship and stuff like that? But I guess the question for you is what would you like to say to the people listening?
I would I'd just guess if anyone wants to chat. I personally, I guess me personally, I'm not exactly the most like initiate a
Mm,
conversation, but I like listening. So if if I feel like someone has like a real cool like occupation, whatever it is they're doing, whether it's engineering or not even in STEM at all or whatever, I
yeah.
think um, I definitely appreciate it when um, I can appreciate when people are good at what they do because it obviously always takes work. It's not always just like, oh, I could do what they do kind of thing. And so I enjoy hearing about how they got to where they were, why they like what they're doing, what it
Mm,
is they're doing. Because I guess being, an engineer in a Filipino household is, like all I kind of know is STEM, and
mm,
it's not like it was always forced on me. I just enjoy STEM in general, and so for me to, I guess, gain exposure to what other people do outside of STEM is always real cool. And I think that's why I like LinkedIn. I just see
yeah.
stuff that my connections like, then I'm like, oh, that's cool.
So one thing I can tell you with 100% certainty, every person out there is interesting. Every
Sure,
person out
for
there
sure.
is interesting, especially when they talk about what they love and what they're into. That's why I really like this format where we have this discussion and it's all about you because you bring the energy because you like talking about what you do. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, like I'm with you in that it's just really nice to hear what people are interested about, what makes people passionate about certain things.
And I think I can't remember where I heard the quote from, but they say one of the hardest things in life is to find what you're passionate about. And so those who like, I guess, found it, um, or are on their way there,
Hmm.
um, to hear them talk about it is it's definitely enlightening and really insightful.
No, with utter certainty, I think that is probably one of the hardest thing in life.
Mm,
You know, one thing that really terrifies me is that I graduated and then I do the same thing for the next 40 years and then I retire.
mm.
Personally,
Not knowing that whether like you really enjoy it. It's not that you don't enjoy what you're doing now, but you don't know whether you'll enjoy something else more, kind of thing. Is it
yeah,
that kind of feeling?
and I'm not gonna blame the system or anything, but because I feel like that is could be a product of your degree. Some people I know that they think that when you graduate with a degree, that's all you do for the rest of your life, and there's no turning back, there's no left, and there's no right, and there's only that one path, and that's why I think it's very interesting to hear when the people are talking
I
about
think
what they're into.
I think that's a really interesting thing
Yeah,
too. Even within our company, just hearing about how people maybe move from one sector to another,
yeah.
or one team or another. Like I think, yeah, and especially that they're completely jumping between different industries. I
Oh
think
yeah.
it's really interesting.
Well, I feel like it can definitely say that, especially in a time right now, right, where jobs are being
Mm.
massacred left and right, and
It's
people
almost like a
just
forced opportunity, right?
yeah.
Like,
So
you know,
some people
branch out.
just have to do it because they don't have a choice. So, um, I feel like hopefully it should never come to that. I mean, it's quite unfortunate, but it does sometimes happen.
Mm.
Um, okay, Renza, where can we find you? Can you let the people know the places and
Where can they
locations?
find me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my address is 26. um, no, I have an Instagram.
Hmm.
I won't say it, but you can probably just put it in the
You don't
bio
want
or
to say
something.
it? I can say it, like, so we'll have it underneath this. Yeah.
It's actually not that open, but I think it's Renz.Rabusa. So
Yeah.
my
It's not
Rabusa.
cringe. Your name is pretty great.
No, I didn't think it was cringe. It's just weird saying my handle.
um,
Um, but yeah, otherwise, yeah, LinkedIn. Get that 500 plus connections.
one day. Do you know where you are right now? I think right now I'm like at 250.
I'm a numbers guy, so I think I'm on like 250, 244.
Ah, there you go.
244. That's actually really close.
Mm,
244. Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah. Speaking of like, communication and things like that, I think LinkedIn is a great place because you'll just, I guess, leveraging your existing connections is really, it's something I didn't, I guess, kind of appreciate until I made a LinkedIn account,
mm, mm.
so, which was only last year. So
Yeah,
I think that's a good thing to use.
I think LinkedIn is very, very useful, especially when it comes to, number one is growing your network and actually making meaningful, like, industry connection. I think it's
Mm.
incredibly useful for that.
And especially like in a place like New Zealand, like isn't 2 degrees called 2 degrees because it's like 2 degrees of separation in
Yeah.
New
Oh, yeah,
Zealand?
it probably
Yeah.
is. I mean, it's just,
And so if
yeah,
you find someone maybe at a company that you might want to work with, or someone who just has a cool job that you just want to talk to, or
yeah,
have as a mentor, I think there's a good chance you probably know someone who knows him. And I think it's good to leverage that.
yeah. And even just taking that risk, messaging someone, I can
Yeah, take the plunge.
I can tell you one of the things that I've started doing is that whenever somebody adds me on LinkedIn, I instantly send them a message and say, "Hey, what's up?" Because I want to
Mm.
make a more
Make it
meaningful,
personal.
yeah, make it personal, make it more meaningful than just hitting 500 plus connections.
For
Um,
sure, for sure.
because I think I've read, reading so much about like networking and stuff like that. Um, I mean, it's better to think of it as real connection as opposed to just a stepping stone of becoming bigger.
I agree.
Making everybody win. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a pretty good idea of how to view networking. But man, sometimes standing in the middle of a convention theater, trying to uh, trying to say hi and to anyone that would take a notice is very scary, very,
Daunting,
very
yeah, for
terrifying.
sure. Very daunting.
So, what does success look like to you?
uh I feel like it's when you're doing your best, and that's really blunt and vague. But I guess when you're at, um, I don't know. I feel like I don't know. It's a hard thing to measure. I don't
Mm,
think you can measure it. But I think it's if you're making the most out of your potential, whatever that may be.
I mean, I like the answer because I feel like it's more applicable to a lot of people. I mean, specific answers only affect specific people. So
Mm.
I think that answer is actually quite an important and a good answer. Um. Okay. Thank you very much, Renz. I am
No worries,
super
man.
glad that you decided to take me up on this offer to come on to this show.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I could help out.
All right. Thank you.